From MZ Studios in Dallas, Texas, you're listening to the Tennis Revolution podcast.
French Open, the best of matches and the worst of matches. Bring in some literate.
I like it.
What is that from?
Tale of Two Cities.
There
Charles
he is.
Dickens.
Oh my goodness, he is a learned man.
That's all I've been doing for the last month is reading.
Reading books. There's no
from
chance
the 1800s.
you've read anything. There's no chance.
You're actually 100% right, which is really sad.
So does that mean I'm cultured because I just?
I think it does.
Because I just binge watched Deadwood, which is from the 1800s.
Are you getting ready for the movie?
I'm sorry, what?
They're doing a Deadwood movie. You didn't know that?
I think it's already out.
Oh, there you go. See?
I haven't watched it yet. Don't ruin it.
No, I haven't seen that show ever. But I have heard it's good.
Yeah, it's all right.
But no, that has been a big source of depression in my mind about how I've read nothing for the last 2 months of barely teaching tennis or going outside, and yet I can't read.
Oh, man. Well, good thing you majored in what you majored in because you did all that in college.
That's right.
Now it's over.
Now I have an excuse. This week, at least, I had an excuse not to read. We had great tennis.
Well, I mean, listen, I gave you a Dickens quote, and you pulled the fact that it was Dickens because I didn't know where that came from. I had some vague idea.
Right.
I thought that might be it, but I wouldn't have. I would have had to call you as my lifeline on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Right. Which is now canceled for the first time in 20 years.
So
that was such a popular show, and it just went away so quickly.
It really did. So yeah, we really have had the pinnacle, if you will, and I'll actually go out on a limb and say that all the people that are overly praising one match in particular, I'm not going to call them dum-dums. I'm going to say they might be right. Well, because right now, what you end up having, particularly on the men's side, what you end up having is, a 6-4 set. Oh, the greatest match in the history of the world. Meanwhile, every time you win a game, it's because I played like crap. And then every time I won a game, you played like crap. And we just did that back and forth for 10 games to make it 6-4.
Well, what's frustrating for me is there's been 10 great matches throughout this tournament. They've just shown one. So that's been the greatest they showed of all. I mean, they had some 11-9s and 10-8s. And
far be it from me to make things up on this podcast. I really don't.
Never.
I might get stuff wrong unbeknownst to myself, but I don't do it intentionally.
Yeah.
I've been saying on this podcast, and maybe it was the 15 shows in a row without you. I was all by myself rambling into the microphone.
Felt like that many.
For 8 minutes at a time. But I did say that clay potentially lends itself to better quality matches because you have more time to set up, you get to hit more of your shots, and provided the two people on either end of the court are, physical equals, and they can maintain that level, on par with their opponent, then that's what you get. And I think that's what we've gotten. So the best match, men or women, of the entirety of the first half of this tournament, and I'm not going to say all year, get a hold of yourselves, but it might be on the men.
Yeah.
It really could be on the men. Was probably 5 times in that entire match where they had little shorter lulls of crappiness.
Right.
But overall, the percentage was probably, 95-5 or 90-10 at worst in terms of both players. Because, again, we've always talked about this. What makes a great match? Both opponents playing at their best at the same time. And I think at least 90% of that Wawrinka match, that's what that was the case.
Well, and I think it's so rare for us with the men's too that there was about 5 times during that match I just sort of took a breath and said, I don't know who's going to win this.
Yeah.
And I feel like that doesn't happen. Even, when Nadal and Thiem are 6-all in the 5th in that U.S. Open, it's like, we know who's going to win.
Right.
And yeah, if they lose some of those, then we start thinking differently. But in that match, there were many times I was like, I don't know who's going to win this.
Right.
I don't know what's going to happen on this break point, this set point, this match point, which was a crazy match point too.
And we've had mayhem, carnage, as always on the women's side.
Right.
But it doesn't matter because there's still a lot to be gained from watching the women's draw. But on the men's, it's so rare that we see this performance from both players at the same time. And furthermore, not just some nobody once playing out of his mind. I mean, Wawrinka is part of the Big Four.
Right.
Which, again, to refresh your memories of the tens of thousands of fans who have forgotten since Corey's been gone. The Big Three are the Big Three. Nadal, Fed, Djokovic, no particular order. Don't at me. So those are the Big Three.
With nobody anywhere close to being
with
in the top three.
A wide gap between. As a matter of fact, it takes three players that make up the Big Three, hence Big Three. However, it takes a multitude of players to make up the one Big Four.
Right.
The Big Four is only one spot, made up of Murray. Del
Potro.
May his game rest in peace. We don't know. I see him on Twitter every now and again. He's on a court somewhere.
He's gonna probably play mixed doubles or some garbage at Wimbledon.
Fever tree.
Boodles.
Please be the Boodles. So the Big Four is Andy Murray. Basically, anyone who has gotten at least one Grand Salami tournament, a major, within this period of the Big Three. And so,
which I think is just 4 people, right?
Cilic, Delpo, Murray, Wawrinka.
I think that's it.
That might be it.
Nishikori made a final, but he's not really in that group.
He might be, though.
He's close.
I think he's in that group in terms of the fact that he could win one. He's just had more injury problems than others.
Yeah.
And plus, he's a diminutive fellow. I'm bringing the heat.
You are.
I'm bringing literary quotes and big words. So that's the Big Four. So, and then you have the next gen, which is that first group, the older group that turned pro, in 12, 11,
early to mid 2000s,
13. No. So
early mid 2010s.
Yeah.
Teams, Zverev, even though he's younger, but
he's turned pro earlier. Teams, right. Zverev, Chorich,
Sock, who's not around anymore.
Jack Sock.
We will always get him in every show, one way or the other.
I hope so. I hope so. And then we have the next gen, which are, regardless, it's about tennis age, about turn pro age, not age. So Tsitsipas,
Felix,
Shapovalov. Demonauer.
Obviously there's
a couple more, sure. And so those are our groupings. And so typically we don't see great matches when you intermingle any of the generations.
Right.
So the Big Three dominate the Big Three beat everyone, but dominate the next gen and the next gen.
Yeah, and this was kind of the perfect matchup because it's like the number most people consider either 4 or 5 versus probably the number 1 of the next gen. So it's like that perfect kind of opportunity.
Right. So we got a Big Four who's now back. Because he was out, Wawrinka was hurt, and whatever
happened. Top 20 for the first time in like 2 years.
Yeah, and he's certainly at that talent level, obviously, because he's got titles. And so he's playing a next gen, and the maybe the best guy of the next gen, and it was an absolute blockbuster. Like I said, I think the level at the same time was high for a good percentage. And again, I've never had an issue. Here's what our issue should be week in, week out. Who's going to crack at the big points?
Right.
Who's going to buckle just the slightest bit when it matters the most? That's what these matches should turn on.
Yeah.
Not, wow, he lost the first set 7-6 and then 6-0, 6-0. Wow. That's because that's what normally happens. They might have enough in them for a set, but then it just falls to, and this was not that. This was a pretty high level all the way through. A little dicey with some calls at the tail end, which is, too bad.
There were many opportunities for him to fade away, though. Either player, really, that, we would have expected from other next gen or next gen. And
again, the serve percentage or break percentage, it doesn't bother me on clay, because Tsitsipas had 20 plus break opportunities.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, what bothered me is how he could only convert 5 or however many it was out of 27 or something. But
at the same time, it's on clay, and so that lessens the effectiveness to some degree.
Yeah, and Wawrinka's, he had the ability. If he got his first serve in, it was tough.
Yeah.
And he got it in a little bit sporadically, which actually made it harder, I'm sure.
Yeah.
At one point, Tsitsipas almost got aced by second serve because he could barely get up to it. It was like a change-up, and I don't know if it was intentional or not. And there was some wind. They really don't do justice to the players because I think this whole tournament has been super windy, and they just might mention once every match, it's a little windy out there, and I think it's probably 20 plus for a lot of these matches because he whiffed a ball. I've been seeing some crazy frame shots and
and some of that could be bad balances because clay gets caked up in an area and hits a bad area and kind of shoots sideways a little. But yeah, that match. I started that was today, so we're recording on Sunday evening, and that was this morning. And I watched the first 2 sets and maybe the first 4 games of the third, I think. And then I pulled a Corey. I hit the record button, and then scurried on to church to get right with the Lord. And then I came back, and what I didn't do though is I didn't turn the TV off. I was
gonna say, yeah.
So I walked right back into my living room. The TV's on,
so it's live.
It's recording, but it's live. So I've recorded it for nothing.
So you don't go back. You're just like,
no. I might
as well just join it now.
Yeah. So I watched the 5th set. Basically, I was like, come on.
Well, yeah, and then it switched to NBC. So it's like if you did record it, that could have been. That could have messed you up. Yeah, that's true too. I would have had to switch over record. Yeah. Well, I got there before it switched over to NBC, but yeah, what a match. Yeah, and, outside of the break points, the 2 things that surprised me the most, I had never seen, and I consider Tsitsipas one of my favorite players, but I have not seen him that often just because they don't show, young up and comers that often. It's always the big 4 or whoever. But I had never seen him get that sort of mentally unstable, and it seemed to be throughout the match. It was throughout the match.
That's an understatement.
And it was weird too because it would be 5-4, 40-15, and he'd lose a point and fireball into the crowd. I'm like, you still have a game point. You still have a set point. It was just weird times for him to go off, I thought.
Yeah, so he sits down on the bench after getting broken or missing an opportunity, 9 break opportunities, for him or whatever. And he sits down on the bench, and then...
Boy, that escalated quickly.
He throws water bottles, a racket, and then he starts hitting himself in the head violently.
Well, and...
Violently.
I don't
like it.
Have you ever been a racket thrower?
No. I would be a little 14-year-old version of myself cussing and saying bad words.
So I'll be the racket thrower of the 2 of us because I have occasionally thrown them. But if I don't throw a racket in the first 3 seconds, it's over. I'm fine.
You're past
so
it.
I can't relate to someone who walks a changeover, sits down, and then the Baghdadis from when he pulled the 5 rackets out of his bag and broke them all consecutively.
Yeah, that's a bit much.
I don't that's to me just weird. And yeah, people are going to say, "Well, you didn't play for millions of dollars. You didn't play that." It's it's not. We're talking about human, psychology.
Right.
I just don't. I don't get that. And then yeah, he's down 40-15 in the final game, and he hits himself in the head 8 times. I'm like. Of all times to do that, that's probably the worst time.
Right.
To do that.
Let's concuss ourselves and throw our balance off a little.
But yes, but that, and then the other thing I was going to say was, a lot of people I've talked to and read online that, oh man, after this match was Tsitsipas is he's clearly the next big thing. And I still think that, but I think this match makes me less excited than I was after the Federer match.
Whew.
And it's a great match. He battled all the way through, but I just think that I was really, really excited in the Australian. Now I'm still excited, but I'm I saw a lot more chinks in the armor than I expected to see.
Well, first of all, I'll give him a little bit of a pass because some of his skills don't translate to clay.
Well, I was trying to think about that too.
He's a very good volleyer.
Yeah.
His volleys are really good, and
he couldn't come in it was so hard to come in on Wawrinka.
Well, that too, and I've never. The shot making, people might not really be. if you don't see a ball go past somebody, like either at a sharp angle or a laser down the line and they're diving for it, you might not think a passing shot is spectacular. But when a guy's closing the net and you're 2 feet behind the baseline with a one-handed backhand, and you dip the ball right over the net strap and hit his shoe tops, and he didn't even hit the net strap going back up from the volley. It just went right into the net because he's dipping that ball. To be able to dip that ball, and it's right to him. So it's not a spectacular sharp angle that, or down the line where he did dive once, by the way.
Like he dived like 3 times, actually.
So
he didn't make any of the shots, I don't think.
Yeah, so, but that is spectacular. And the difference between a put-together game plan like Wawrinka and some of these next gens like Zverev or who, I mean, it just looked night and day. And Tsitsipas he's 12 years old in terms of his pro career.
Right.
He's still a preteen. He's got to stop losing his mind. He's got to stop.
I didn't realize that was a problem for him, and now that I've watched this, I'm like, okay. And they showed some like previous stuff, and I was like, okay, I didn't realize this was an issue. I guess because I've mainly seen him win.
Well, yeah, I've seen it before. We talked about it on the podcast before because I coached a player that used to smack himself in the face.
Right.
If that rings a bell. Mm-hmm. And, I mean,
ain't nobody got time for that.
That's only going to hurt him, physically, obviously, but also just, game-wise. I mean, he's got to control his emotions.
Well, and McEnroe actually said something I never have heard before, and this may be obvious to you, but he said that one of the reasons that Sampras struggled so much at the French is because when you come in and do that split step, it's like you don't really get set because you're sliding. And I saw that several times with Tsitsipas. He would do the split step, and it looked like he wasn't really in position for the volley. And I had never really thought of it that way. I've always thought about, the other guy has more time, the ball sits up higher. I didn't really think of the actual volleyer of why that would be an issue. Yeah. But I could see that being a problem, too.
Not just the split step, but every single movement, pushing off, because you don't have time.
Right.
It's boom, boom, boom. Quick reactions when you're at the net, and if you don't have good footing, now the difference, in grass you don't have good footing either, but neither does your opponent to pick up that ball and do anything with it. And so they've got lesser of a margin as well. But
I'd like to see his net stats. I bet he was still 60-70% at least.
But man, at critical times, Wawrinka really came up with some, again, amazing, but maybe, meat and potatoes looking passing shots where he would just dip it right at his racket. And really, Tsitsipas didn't even have to move that much. It's just it was such a tough volley to pick up. He just didn't pick it up. And, that's the front end of the old 2-shot pass.
On that last shot, did you think that he should have hit it, meaning as it was happening? Right. Because when I first saw it, I thought it was out.
Like in flight?
Yeah.
You thought it was going to be out?
And I know that it was, I think he could have reached it for sure. It would have obviously been tough. But he also had the whole court open, so if he just reaches it and gets it in, he wins the point. But I was waiting. That's probably the most dramatic match point I've seen in review because I didn't know if it was in or out.
Right.
You could tell Wawrinka thought it was in the whole time.
Yeah.
But that was pretty exciting.
And by the way, the people calling for Hawkeye on clay, just let it go. I don't think it's accurate. I don't think it's accurate.
It's funny
enough.
You say that because we had what point we were watching and we were like, that's not where that ball landed.
Right.
There's something wrong with it. I don't know if it's like the granules or what it is. There's something that's interfering with that in some way because it's not. Yeah. Doesn't look like where the ball lands.
Right. Whatever happened to the 100 frames per minute or whatever camera, the slow-mo
cam,
any of that stuff. Yeah. Whatever happened to those?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, you're one of the 4 biggest tournaments on the planet. Why don't you put 5 of them, 6 of them? Well, you'd have one on each baseline, one on each service line, one on the center line. Good Lord, that's a lot of cameras. You can move them though.
Well, I'm sure they've already got a lot in those positions. But yeah, my problem is I don't think the umpire. I think about 10% of the time the umpire looks at the wrong mark.
I think that's certainly a factor.
But I think when they look at the right mark, they're getting it right. The vast majority of the time.
And it's hard to see if it's one of those where it, elongates, and because you look at obviously it's not just the size of a ball, it flattens and all the rest of it, but it's hard to tell sometimes.
Well, it's funny when you look at what you're talking about, like the 100 frames per second, the ball doesn't elongate nearly as much as it does in the Hawkeye version. That's what's kind of funny. Like it doesn't seem nearly like
the ball itself doesn't.
A long time.
But yeah, it hits and rolls and then comes up, but it also elongates.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it touches nearly as much as the ground when you look at it the camera as it does in the Hawkeye.
Well, either way, you'd be able to tell.
But can you ever remember a Grand Slam where Federer and Nadal are both playing and they didn't show either of them in favor of another match?
Right.
I had never seen that.
So I was so excited about that match being on regular TV because they got it right as far as the difference is they probably predicted it ahead of time, because if it wouldn't have been and another match would have been a good match, let's say that ended up being a blowout,
right?
They wouldn't have switched.
Well, and if Nadal
they got lucky.
A set,
they got lucky.
If Nadal lost a set, they would have flipped. Which if he lost a set, then I'm fine with that. But what irritated me is even when they turned over to Tsitsipas, it was 5-6, and I'm like, and I think Federer was up 2-0, and I'm like, we could have been watching this for the last 4 games at least, from 3-all or 4-all.
Yeah.
But then it was funny when Nadal came on. I think it was Ted. Was he the one on Ted Robinson and Mary Carrillo? At some point, he said, "I apologize to all you guys who are hoping to see Nadal, but we're going to stay with." I'm like, nobody wants to see that. Like they're so out of touch with what you want to see.
No. There are people that just want to see Nadal.
I don't know.
And they're just people that want to see Federer or just want to see Djokovic.
They're people that aren't tennis fans.
They're
just
idiots.
Nadal fans or whatever.
They're idiots. They might not be idiots. No, they might not be.
Maybe they're Spanish patriots or
strike that from the record. They could be their countrymen for sure, but also they don't know what is quality tennis. And they think, oh, wow, this guy just hitting winners all day, every day is amazing. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Well, then go watch some, teaching pro play against, a boys 10s little group and watch him hit foam balls past these little punks.
But, I mean, it was like, I think Nadal was 5-2, and he said, I apologize. We're not showing you that. We've got, a really high-quality match here. I said, don't apologize. It's there's no reason to explain it.
Yeah.
You don't explain when you're not showing a great match when it's 5-6.
We're sorry, we're staying with this awful blowout.
Right.
And the most amazing match you've ever seen is just one court over, but we're not going to even talk about it.
And then at one point, they switched over to Sloane and Muguruza. It was like 2-all in the 5th, and they showed some 4-3 game in Muguruza. And I'm like, nobody cares about that. It's 2-all in the 5th. We've watched all 4 sets leading up to that, and you're going to go away.
Every single game in the 5th set matters.
Yeah.
Every single game. Second set, 2 out of 3. 3 out of 5.
I don't mind if they go away early in a different set.
Yeah, pop in, give us a little, whatever, no problem. But make sure your anchor match is the one that's going to be the barn burner.
Yeah, but so that was the first day of this 8 days we've had where they did it well, I thought.
Right.
So they've shown about 4 matches a day, which to me is ridiculous when you've got, 32, 64 matches.
You've got... At your disposal, you have Tennis Channel Plus.
Well, I don't.
You should.
But that's part of, I'm telling you, that's
Channel
the
Plus,
scam.
Give us a free situation.
I'm telling you, they're all about sales. That's what they must be making more money off Tennis Channel Plus.
They can't be. They can't be overall, because eventually people just will not. I won't do that. If they just leave all the good matches, I will abandon them.
Yeah.
I will abandon the whole. I will stop watching the whole. I will bootleg it. I'll find one of my college kids to show me how to bootleg watch it on the internet somewhere, and I'll just steal it for free.
Well, and trust me, I understand the value of star power. I don't want them to show 2 unseeded players at 4-all in the 5th when you've got Federer. I get that, but Wawrinka and Tsitsipas, that's 2 top 20 players that have potential to win the tournament.
Yeah, they need to have a matrix or something. And the top of the hierarchy is 2 big 3 players playing each other at a high level.
Yeah.
And then the next would be big 3 versus big 4 or next gen if it's a competitive match.
Right.
If it's not a blowout. So the next one would be any of those other groups playing each other or themselves. So next gen playing next gen. So Team versus Zverev or Tsitsipas versus whatever. if it's a high quality. But you're right. If it gets down to 2 top 50 guys who are slugging it out, 6-all in the 5th.
Yeah.
It does create some drama, but you also know that there are no stakes here.
Right. Because they're not doing anything in the next round anyway.
It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. But I will say when that matrix goes out the window is if, Nadal's down a set in 3-1 today, they would have had a real hard time figuring out what to show. Because he got him down a set in a break. You got Tsitsipas Wawrinka. That's when I'm okay with him showing Nadal.
Right.
But even when Nadal lost a set to Goffin, it's like he's up 2-1. It doesn't matter. He was
already, right.
It doesn't matter. Like they didn't need to get all hyped up about that because I think the 4th set was 6-1 or 6-2. Like that doesn't matter. To me, they should be barred from showing a match when someone's up 2-0. I don't think that match should be shown ever.
Right.
Unless it gets to 5-all.
Unless it was 7-6, 7-6.
Yeah.
If it was 7-6, 7-6, and both tie breaks were like 13-11.
Or if the underdog is ahead, then that's different. If Federer loses the first 2 sets, then of course we got to watch the 3rd set.
So, yeah. So another match that could have been good today also was Nishikori and Benoit Paire.
And see, they wouldn't have shown a minute of that, I don't think, if
and that's a tricky
Nadal was
one.
Going on.
And that's a tricky one because, I think Nishikori could be considered that big 4 partially because I think if he's 100% healthy for the last 5 years all the way through, I think he could have been a threat somewhere. Yeah,
and he's been top 10 and a Grand Slam finalist.
And Benoit Paire, well, he's a goofball. But he's my goofball. But that was a match where they had quality in spurts.
And I knew as soon as Wawrinka and Tsitsipas ended, they were going to go to Sloane for the duration of that.
It just didn't last long.
And then they didn't even show. Did they even show any of Paire Nishikori?
Where did I watch that? I can't remember if I was watching that on my phone.
NBC didn't show much of it, I'm sure.
Okay, then I was watching it on my phone. No, it was. They might have shown the beginning of it. I can't remember because I'm mixing it up with my phone. And
but the reason NBC don't want to show a match like that is because they're not going to stay on until it ends.
Right.
So, and then it looks really bad if you're cutting off a match in the middle, which they had to anyway because it got dark. But they would have had to stay on about another hour to show as long as they played. Yeah, they went to. Yeah, you know what? It was on NBC. Okay, so they did show some of it. And then I had to finish it on... Actually, but what was it on? No, they continued... Yeah, they played the 3rd set. Okay. Yeah, they played the full 3rd set. So that's good. That's surprising. Yeah, so Nishikori is up 2-1. I'm sure that crowd had to be rocking that 2nd set tiebreak. Well, they were trying in the 1st set, and they were trying in the 3rd set, but... Benoit. He's a hard guy to get behind, meaning he's not someone that's going to just feed off the crowd necessarily. I thought Wawrinka actually could have fed a lot more off the crowd. Yeah, that's true. Although, actually, Paire was starting to do that a little bit, particularly in the 2nd set, which he won. And I think... Well, that's really his only chance to win, in my opinion. Well, yeah, but I think it's a little outside his comfort zone, and so sort of, because he's Mr. Enigma guy, right. You know what I mean? So he's kind of a whatever, but yeah, so he lost the 1st set after being up 2-0. He lost 6 straight games. There's nothing more Benoit Paire than being up 2-0 and losing 6 straight games. And then he won the 2nd set 10-8 in a breaker, and then lost the 3rd set 6-2. So... did you have a problem with them not? He might retire. He might not even. He's probably already gone. Well, I was gonna say, do you have a problem with them not moving that match to a different court because you knew it wasn't gonna finish? Yeah, I do. I definitely. I think there's been way too many unfinished matches, considering there's been no rain whatsoever. Well, one thing that happens as a tournament director, and I don't know about directing a Grand Slam, but is ambitious scheduling always gets you in trouble. Yeah. Ambitious scheduling, whether if you're running a local tournament and you're like, all right, let's give them an hour and 15 between matches. You'll be backed up from the beginning of life. And so, like you said, how many matches they have on these courts, and obviously 3 out of 5 on clay for men really can end up in a 3.5 to 4 hour match. Yeah. So on the main court tomorrow, on the 2nd court, Suzanne Longland, they've got 5 matches scheduled. Now, one of them is that Nishikori Paire. but that could be 18 sets they're going to play in a 10-hour window. I mean, how are you going to play 18 sets in 10 hours? That would be if they all went to the maximum,
right? Which they certainly could.
And even and that's not even counting the fact they don't even play a tiebreak at the end of the fifth or the third. So I mean, there's no way, in my opinion, all 5 of those matches are going to finish on that court tomorrow. Yeah, unless there's just like 2 or 3 blowouts.
Ambitious scheduling gets you in trouble.
Well, we're just going to have to use our brains. Damn it.
They should just be a little more disciplined and spread these matches out. But yeah, I'm 100% with the fact that they just need to push it later, but start it earlier than it would have if you're waiting for a match to finish.
And why is this so like unheard of or precedented? Why not just start the match on an outside court after a set, move it over to the big court? Who cares? I mean, I know that's ridiculous, but you're basically doing that anyway. They're stopping and they're going back to the same court, but it's 12 hours later. Who cares?
Well, I think logistically be a problem because all the people that want to go out and watch Benoit there and cheer in France, they're going to go out there. And we had a situation where before a match started, they moved Nadal. Did you hear about this?
Yeah.
And immediately a brouhaha, a ruckus ensued. And I don't know how bad it was, but apparently it wasn't good.
Well, I wish I knew more about how they did the ticketing there because the Longland court is always full and the Chartier court is always empty. So I don't know why that is. I think it might be like the U.S. Open where the main court gets you access to every court,
right?
But the Longland court you have to buy a specific seat.
Huh.
Because it seems like every time I watch, especially at the start of a day, it's empty in that Chartier.
Yeah.
And this is what we have to look forward to the second week. They always do that simultaneous start on both courts, which I hate.
Yeah.
They do it in the quarters and the semis, I think, and it's the worst. Which in the women's it may be okay because we don't know half the players. So that's the only good thing about having chaos.
That's true.
There's only one match you really want to watch.
Well, speaking of women's tennis, if we must, and we must, and we shall when we come back.
It's time to join the revolution. Go to our website, tennisrevolutionpodcast.com, to get the latest episodes, email us your questions and comments, or give us show ideas.
So women also play the French Open, right? Do they have equal prize money?
They do.
What? We can't hear any complaining about equal prize money? Unbelievable.
I know, even with all these extended matches.
So the men are working
don't start
40% harder for the same wages.
That's right.
I think the first round woman and the men's champion should get paid the same. I didn't mean to start talking about women's tennis that way. It just happened by accident, I swear.
I did, to turn it around to a positive note, I read a crazy stat on the way here that said Madison Keys has won or has made the round of 16 in like 13 of the last 17 Grand Slams. And they were saying that was really consistent. And I said, everybody says I bash Madison Keys. I said, yeah, but the problem with that is she's 1-0. I said, she would rather make 4 round of 16s and win 2, than make 13 and win 0. So, that's impressive and it's consistent.
Now she would.
Right.
But it's always, would you, rather be the Buffalo Bills and make it to 4 Super Bowls and lose all 4 or just make it to 1 and win it? Well, in 2019, then obviously the Bills would say, yeah, we already know what happens when you lose 4 in a row. We like to win 1. But prior to that, you don't know what the future holds. So you want to get to, every single one of them. So,
but I think praising her for that, it's like, well, I would say in almost all those, she was ranked in the top 16. So isn't she supposed to be in the round of 16? Like, I get it that other people don't do. I get it that other people don't do it, but she's kind of doing what she's supposed to be doing.
Right. On paper, what you're predicted to do. Yeah.
So I'm not going to, fawn over her for that. I think that she's had a good tournament this week, but she's been kind of under the radar.
Yeah.
Everybody, Sloane has kind of gotten all the attention. Anna Samova keeps getting unknown opponents, so we don't even see her matches. But
it's been, the women have been a wild ride. But if you look I do this every time. I apologize completely. But if you look at the men's draw, I didn't mean to do that. All right, so here's from top to bottom. We have Djokovic and Struff. So the one made it through.
Right.
And then the next, which, Struff, and we know him, but, unseeded. Then we have Fognini, Zverev, the 5 and 9. That's a fantastic matchup.
Right.
Then we have Team Monfils, 4 and 14. Fun.
Yeah.
Khachanov, Del Potro, 10 and 8. Fantastic. We had Wawrinka Tsitsipas, 6 and 24, and I think Wawrinka is a little bit of a, that's a false 24.
Right.
He's better than that. And then we had Federer and Meyer. So we know one of them. Nishikori and Benoit Paire, and Benoit Paire's been top 30.
Right.
So I think he's in the 40s now. And then we had Londero and Nadal. So a couple of those spots are like, but for the most part, we had enough of the seeds come through.
When I was going to say, you at least have a marquee player in every match.
Every match, which isn't great because they're going to murder some. And they did. I mean, Federer and Nadal just murdered their children. So now here's the women. The top line does not hold the one seed, obviously, Osaka out. So Siniakova, and then you have Madison Keys. So we got Keys, but that matchup's not great as far as drawing power for fans. Okay, we have the next line is Ash Barty and Kennan. Now, Kennan had to upset the best player in the history of women's tennis. I think Andy Murray would have something to say about that. I don't know if it works in reverse like that.
But I'm okay with that. Kennan beats somebody to get there.
Right.
So I'm fine with that.
And then Ash Barty's the 8, obviously. So then we have Halep, the 3, against Swiatek, or whatever her name is.
That sounds like a college. I went to Swiatek.
Yeah, and then we have Anisimova and Balsova, the battle of the unknown ovas.
Right. So
that's not a good one. And then we got Stevens and Mugi, 7 and 9. That one's over, obviously, but I'm just talking about the matchups we had. Then we have Joe Konta and Vekic.
And I think before this year, Konta had never won a French Open match.
Something like that.
Now she's in the quarters.
But she's a high enough name, and Vekic is a big enough name to where. And then we have Kanepi and Martic.
Yeah, you skip Vondrousova and Sevastova, but Vondrousova just destroyed her.
Yeah.
Somehow.
So, in all honesty, the women's draw sucks. Now that I look at it,
well, you're going to have at least 2 unseeded players in the quarters, and probably more, like 3 or 4, which is. Like in the men's draw, that would be unheard of. Maybe you get one once a year.
Well, if my argument has been that, I put it this way, I do think the fact that most of the time you can have some carnage in a Grand Slam on the women's side and you're still fine. I just think we've had so much that it's we're piecing together a tournament here, folks.
Well, I think what I was thinking about, I decided that the first week of a slam is awesome for the women, terrible for the men, and then it reverses in the second week. Because in the second week of the women's, you've got all these unknowns playing the best players that are left.
Not this bad, though.
Right, normally not this bad.
This is bad.
But in the men's, we've got a bunch of incredible matchups because all the best players are still in. Now, sometimes that works against us because it's the same matchups we see every tournament. But this time, there's enough variety.
I mean, if we had Kanepi and Pliskova instead of Kanepi and Martic,
right,
that would be a huge difference.
And obviously, if we had Osaka and Keys.
And if we had Osaka and Keys.
That would be great.
And then we got Halep. I mean, we had Monica Puig. She was unseeded before, and then the round before that, basically we lost.
Well, what's sad is even if we get the best possible matchups, you're talking about Keys and Barty, which is okay.
I like that.
And then Halep and Anisimova.
I don't like that. I do as an American,
right.
But generally in tennis it's not good. Now, Stevens Konta is fun.
Right.
And then which is already done. And I mean, they're already
and
through.
Vondrousova and Martic will be the 11 a.m. match that nobody watches on whatever
They need
court.
to put it at 6 a.m. Local time. I need them to have to run off the court because the sprinklers came on to wet
down the courts. Play a night match without lights there.
They need to sweep their own courts. That's not nice. That's so rude, but it's funny. That's all that matters to me.
That's right. But I mean,
So for once in our lives, the men's draw looks better than the women's, but that's just because it was in honor of D-Day. It was like a Normandy invasion kind of chaos in the women's draw.
Well, and it started so crazy with like Kerber losing in like the first 2 hours of the tournament.
Yeah,
and then it was like it
never stopped.
It's funny how that happens. Yeah, just sort of they all went down. But and again, what's frustrating about that is that the next tournament it'll be the 5 women that knocked all those people out in this tournament. They'll be nowhere to be seen from, and there'll be 5 other women in the next tournament. You know, that's the frustrating part.
So Osaka has looked awful the whole time.
Oh my God, so that match with Azarenka was great though.
Yeah,
that was by far the best women's match.
Yeah, I think so.
But
in terms of level, I think the Kenin Serena match had me on the edge of my seat.
Yeah,
because we're waiting for Kenin to not come through, and we're waiting for. And the commentators kept saying, "Oh, there's her primal scream. That's usually when she turns it around." Shut up.
And see, I had the misfortune of watching that already knowing the outcome, so I didn't have the drama.
Oh, bummer.
But even watching it, you still think, okay, she's going to bring it back. Like, no, she's not going to win, but okay, she's going to make her work harder.
Right.
And she really didn't outside of maybe a game.
Kenin tried to make herself work harder a little bit, which is understandable. You're playing, the best player in the history of the game, et cetera, and although she's not back to 100%, she's still a formidable opponent to anyone.
Yeah. It did not surprise me that she lost because her footwork in the matches I saw was terrible.
I haven't watched much of her matches at all, not on purpose, just I haven't.
She was always out of position. She, just seemed like she gets by with just overpowering strokes, but she was out of position so many times. She had a lot of easy sitters she just blew also. And again, I think the wind had something to do with that. When your footwork is off, the wind really affects you even more.
And this wasn't a first round match. So for that reason, it gives me a little bit of hope, so to speak, for Kenin.
Yeah.
Because, you can beat somebody like that once, then what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so...
Well, and she's got, you're in the final 16, you got a shot. One way or the other. And if nothing else, you're in the second week, so that's something.
Who was Osaka before she won her first Grand Slam?
Right. Yeah, all these players have a chance.
She was still Osaka. She didn't change who she was, but yeah. So she's got Barty, who's, obviously she's going to be a tough competitor. But Kenin's got more power than I gave her credit for. I think she's a little taller than I gave her credit for. But, she beats Williams. She beat Serena, beats Andreescu.
Well, they didn't play, but yeah.
Oh, that's right. That was yeah.
But that's not her fault.
On this dumb draw, it doesn't show it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't show the score until you click on the actual match.
Yeah.
French Open, get your app.
I hate this app.
Get your app together. I apologize for making you use.
I figured out you got to look at the printable version. That's the better way.
Oh, I see.
But yeah, she beat
Sabalenka.
Yeah, she beat. Well, she beat Andrews who didn't play. She beat an unknown. So she really, outside of Serena, hasn't beaten anyone.
All right.
And Keys has played 3 unseeded players. So it's kind of hard to get that excited about, her. And they were not dominant wins.
Yeah.
Siniakova, even though she's unseeded, is a pretty good player. So that will be her biggest test for sure. And then Halep, she struggled her first 2 matches too. So nobody's been really dominant. In fact, I'm not sure. Barty may be the most dominant. Yeah, Barty hadn't lost a set, so they've got her as a second favorite behind Halep. And the commentators were kind of balking at that because she's never won or even made it to a final.
Yeah, but again...
but who else is left?
Didn't we start out the season talking about, nobody's won more than one tournament all year, and then only 2 people have done it thus far. Yeah, somebody new might win. That doesn't mean people that have never won a tournament won one, but nonetheless.
I think Stevens has a great... this is probably her best chance since, the Open that she won. Because, the only player ranked better than her she would have to beat would be Halep in the final.
Yeah.
And she's got, Konta, who's not known for her clay court prowess, and then either Martique or Vondrousova, which you got to think they're going to be a little bit overwhelmed being in a Grand Slam, semi. But we'll see.
Well, I would like, obviously, we want the higher seeds to come through in all these matchups. Theoretically, that would be better for us in terms of quality tennis, ideally. It doesn't always work that way. But if we can get Keys Barty, I think Keys Kennan would be good too.
Well, and I think part of the reason they realized they had to show Stevens is because they're looking at the future, and if Stevens makes it to the semis, it's going to be her and Martique. Well, nobody really knows who that is, so they had to get some interest going towards Stevens in case she makes it, because they got to have a reason for people to watch at the end.
Right.
Of course, if it ends up being Konta and Martique, that's not even, like you said, that'll be the 6 a.m. showing
under the sprinklers. Well, then you've got, Halep, hopefully for America, for us, for this podcast, Anna Samova wins, and we'll play Halep. And then I think Keys Barty would be potentially the best match of the tournament.
Yeah. Because
you've got somebody who's going to just slap the ball nonstop as hard as she can, and Keys, and Barty, who can do a little bit of everything. And Keys, who has been known to not hold her nerves. No offense.
So I'm
not saying it's hormonal. I'm just saying.
But so we got 4 Americans in the final 16, which is pretty amazing. Oh, by the way, to correct myself.
So how many of that is women? How many are men?
All women. That's what I was going to get to. So last week I said I didn't think that ever happened before, that no men had made it to the second round, which ended up Fritz made it like you predicted. But in 2007, apparently 0 men made it to the second round of the French Open. I did not remember that.
Wow.
I've just read that online somewhere. So we're better this year than we were in 2007.
Yikes.
Taylor Fritz getting crushed in the second round was our best showing.
That was it.
But the women, we have 4 out of 16. That's a pretty good percentage.
Oh, for sure.
Better than any other country in there. So,
and we've got players that are on the come up.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Hopefully this is, when we start getting onto hard courts, our American players have a little better footing, literally and figuratively, and we'll continue their success.
So I got a corner. Are you ready for it?
Oh, baby!
It's stolen from the Tennis Channel, but I'm gonna.
Okay.
I vastly disagree with them, so I'm gonna say it. So they at one point posed the question, back when all these people were still in the tournament, which would be the most impressive achievement: Serena winning, Djokovic winning, Nadal winning, or Federer winning the French.
And the first one was Serena, because she would pass Margaret Court.
They did.
Federer would hit his 21st and his second French. Djokovic, his second French. And then Nadal for 12
just
straight.
Does the same he always does.
Yeah.
Well, Serena was their pick because they said, it's just, she hasn't played all year. She, like you said, she'd be getting to 24. And again, all of them are impressive, so I'm not downgrading anyone. You win the French Open, it's impressive. But to me, Serena winning the French after not playing all year is not impressive. She's done that for 10 of the 24 slams she won. She's like just doing stuff that she's already done. Like, that's not impressive.
Yeah.
I said Federer, but with this caveat, which again is not allowed in the poll, but still, number one, if he beats Nadal en route. If
Correct.
he does that,
correct,
it's by far more impressive than any other possibility.
Right, because we were cheated out of that on his first one.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. He had a formidable opponent.
Yeah. Robin Soderling.
He beat Nadal, right? So that's something. He thought it was like the old NFC Championship. That was his Super Bowl.
Well, I read an article yesterday about, this, we don't remember this now, but he played the day after Nadal lost. He played Tommy Haas in the quarters, and Federer was down 2-0 in that match.
Wow.
And so, they interviewed both of them for the story, and he was saying, I was thinking about how I had a chance to win my first French. And Tommy Haas was saying, I was thinking about how I had a chance to beat Federer. And, I lost the third set, and then I knew it was over.
Wow.
And it was pretty interesting. It was a pretty interesting article because it was like 10 years ago this week or whatever.
Right.
But it's crazy that he loses that match, then he's still got 0 Frenches, and obviously things could change after that or whatever, But to me, him winning a second French, he would have 2 of every slam. He would beat Nadal, which is like the ultimate task in tennis, beating Nadal at the French.
Right.
And he would obviously increase to 21. You could argue Djokovic because he would have 2 Joker slams, and he would also have 2 of every slam. But to me, you've already done something. He's already done that, so it's not as big of an achievement if you've already done it. Federer's doing something he's never done. He would have beaten Nadal and won the French, and hasn't played it for the last 2 years.
Yeah, but if you beat Nadal to win the French, I don't care if it's Federer, Djokovic, or you.
Right.
No, if it was you, that'd be pretty...
You'd wake up. But... yeah, I see what you're saying.
I think,
but Federer gets a little more credit. He's 37. And
I think Federer also gets. I mean, he did it to himself, but he hasn't played on clay in 2 years.
Right. That's what I'm. Yeah, that too.
And so I don't think he's playing clay court tennis, but he's playing on clay. I mean, you still have to deal with the footing.
He's also had a ridiculously easy draw, which drives me, him and Nadal both, which is driving me crazy.
Yes.
And now he's going to play Wawrinka, who's going to be exhausted, and he's got like an 18-2 record against him or whatever. But his last loss at the French was against Wawrinka, so that still adds a little bit of intrigue to me in that match, but it's becoming less impressive, the route he's had to get to, because we thought he would struggle to make the second week. Well, we didn't know he was going to be playing, a player from off the street in Paris in every round. It's been pretty sad to watch, actually. And I love the way they try to hype these matches. He was playing Leonard Meyer, he's a big hitter, he's clay court special. It's like, yeah, he's 80 in the world. Like, who cares? Federer's probably beaten him 10 times before. Like, I get that they have to sell the match, but it's just funny how they try to make it, I was reading some preview of all the matches today, and it was like, Federer and Meyer is the second most interesting match of the day. I'm like, it's the least interesting. And it ended up being...
Yeah. I mean...
But yeah, I just thought it was, of course, they had to pick Serena, and someone said, well, it's American, they're going to American audience. I said, yeah, but Serena, she's won the French before. She's won a tournament before without playing any lead-ups. Like, none of that would be new. And again, they're all impressive, and Nadal just gets punished because he's won this tournament so many times. It's like, big deal, same old thing. He doesn't get any credit for winning because he's already won so many.
Yeah.
I think for the sake of our argument, we either need Djokovic or Nadal to win, obviously, for the sake of greatest of all time argument to continue.
Well, Djokovic is going to win because I'll pick the Joker Slam, and I'm staying with it.
And team looks horrible, so Djokovic doesn't have to worry about him, I don't think. I don't know what is wrong with him. He looks awful.
Hello, he's next gen. That's all. I mean,
but I don't even remember this, but I guess he was in the finals last year.
Yeah,
for some reason, can't remember that. Probably because the match was so short. But he was down. He was almost down 2-1 to Tommy Paul, who's not in the top 100 in the first round.
They all stink, man. They stink. All of them.
And Federer, again, what I said last, he just beats everyone so routinely, it makes him look amazing, which he is, but it's just, it's also them.
It really, I tweeted at a couple of people, Paul Anacone being one of them, with the hashtag weakest air. Can we please get hashtag weakest air trending? I don't even know what trending means, but I think people doing stuff makes it trend. So go do stuff. Not you, because you still don't have Twitter.
No.
Unbelievable.
Well, one of the arguments for that is going to be when every quarterfinalist is 30 plus in this slam, which is very well, could be pretty close to that. Could be Fognini, Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, Nishikori.
How about Fognini? Who wants Fognini to win the French Open?
I do. I would love that.
I do too.
I think that would be amazing. I want him to get to one of the big four at least.
Yeah.
And then I'll be satisfied.
Yeah.
If he loses to Zverev, if anybody loses to Zverev, it's a bad day, but
I got a game plan for him.
I didn't get my Millman.
Drop shot and then hit right at his forehand volley.
Drop shot and then make the next shot.
Not low.
Yeah.
Not away. Ask him where he wants it.
The opposit of what Wawrinka was doing.
And hit it right there.
Yeah.
And he will fly that thing so far wide, he might put a linesperson's eye out.
I whiffed on my Millman prediction, but I was damn close. Millman had him on the ropes the whole match.
And for some reason you like Millman, it's like you've met him before or something, but you haven't.
And I didn't realize that it's all an Australian playing on clay, so that in hindsight that was not the best prediction.
Yeah, but it's also Zverev playing.
Well, I know that's
tennis.
That was my thinking. That would overrule.
Not Misha.
That would overrule anything.
I would pick Misha over anybody that Zverev plays. If he could sub in his brother, I would let him do it. I would make that a rule on the ATP tour. You can sub in your brother for one match.
I've got these. I don't care if they're listening, if they are, or whatever. I was going to say, I've got these two identical twins that play on one of my teams, and I've always thought about, wouldn't you guys just sub out? Like, one of you's having a bad day, wouldn't you go to the bathroom and just switch? And like, who's going to know? You come out and say, "Oh, what was the score again?" Like that.
Well, you don't even have to ask that. I mean, they're allowed to talk to each other. Presumably, they would pass each other in the bathroom,
right? And I just have always thought that would be. It's like having a clone.
Do they use the same racket?
Good question, but that's a pretty observant opponent.
What you would do is both of them would have both rackets in their bag. And if one just wasn't feeling it that day, she'd go in, she'd switch rackets, start playing with the sister's racket.
Right.
Say, I don't know, it's not the racket. It's not, I don't know. Maybe I'll go back to my other one. I don't know. But first, I got to pee.
Right.
And then she'll run. And then her sister will come back out and pull whichever her racket is out. Because it'd be in the same bag.
Right. Yeah.
And,
all right. I'm liking this system. I'm taking notes here.
I like it.
But yeah, Zverev has made it through somehow. And he's exactly like last year. He's going to run out of gas because he's played way too long against inferior opponents.
Yeah.
So what is our dream final on both sides at this point?
Cancel the women's draw. Kidding.
I mean, you could say Keys and Stevens just to be a homer.
Well, let's start with the women since the women's draw sucks this year. It does.
So tell us what you really feel.
It really does. I would like to see Stevens Halep because that's going to validate Stevens' win if she wins.
Right.
Right? You've got somebody who is built for playing clay court tennis, and that's Halep. And they're both Grand Slam winners. And so I think that would be a fun, and I think...
Was it the French they played their long three-setter?
I don't remember. So anyway, but I think that would be my ideal one because ideally I want an American to win for all things holy, for the love of all things holy. But I think the way the draw sets up, because I don't want Kenin to get to the semis and fall apart.
Yeah, so that would be a rematch of last year's final. That was when Halep, remember Stevens ran out of gas and Halep beat her in the third set.
Yep.
So that's some little extra motivation there.
Yeah, so I think that would be fun.
One, it would make some continuity. In women's tennis, you could kind of equivocally say, okay, these are the two best, women on clay right now because they did it 2 years in a row.
Right. Or, the problem is if Stevens doesn't make it, she would have lost to either Konta or Martic or Vondrousova.
Right. And I'm sorry, none of those in the final are getting me excited.
I will watch still, but yeah.
Well, yeah, she's the only one in that section.
What about Swiatek and Vondrousova? They might cancel the tournament next year.
Again, I consider myself pretty knowledgeable about tennis. I have never heard of Swiatek or Bolsova, so they need to hurry up and get out.
Dare you, sir? So that would be, I think, that would be my preferred. So a rematch, but obviously, I'd like to see Stevens win. But Keys, I wouldn't be upset because she's super talented. Obviously, she can make it to a Grand Slam final. She did.
That would be pretty ironic for her to win her first slam on clay.
Well, I would hate to see her play Stevens again after what happened last time.
Yeah, but she might want that.
Yeah, maybe. You would think playing somebody you've been playing with coming up all through juniors, you'd be more comfortable and you'd play better. But man, what an awful U.S. Open that was. Ugh.
Well, that's the good thing. We know it can't be much worse than that.
True. So
Swiatek is 104 in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now.
All right.
So, does that generate some interest if she makes the final? Oh, man, number 104 in the world is in the final.
No.
And she's only 18. I didn't realize she was that young.
Not one bit.
Iga is her name.
Iga?
Iga. She's Polish.
What do we got on the men? What's yours on the women? Did I steal your thunder?
You have to go with Stevens in that half just because it's, there's nobody else. Maybe, for some reason, I'm getting all like Twitter on my Facebook for some reason. On my Google and nothing else. But anyway.
Good.
What have you done to my phone?
Nothing.
But, yeah, I would be fine with Stevens Barty just because Barty seems, cool, and she hasn't made a final yet. So
she's due, yeah.
That would be interesting. But yeah, otherwise, so Bolsova's 137. So, and both it says doubles below their name, even though that's their singles ranking. I don't know why it says doubles, but she's 137. The other girl's 104. So you have two players outside the top 100 that are still in the draw.
Well, you're looking at the draw on an iPhone 1. So I don't think there's some compatibility issues possibly.
But, Yeah, I mean, either of those. Halep, obviously, anytime the same person wins 2 years in a row, it's a double-edged sword. It's kind of anticlimactic, but it's also...
No, it's only anticlimactic on the men because the women have to fight it out to do it.
Yeah, she won't... We know if she wins, it's not going to be easy.
Right.
And I think having her in the final is always interesting because she's always going to have her lapses of
and she's always super intense also. So
she could be up 6-0, 5-1, and I'm still going to watch the last game just in case something happens.
What about on the men's? I'll let you go first on this one.
I mean, now that Tsitsipas is out...
Did he lose?
I can't...
Was it for medical issue? Did he get a concussion from himself?
Self-imposed. I cannot say Djokovic Nadal because I've just seen it too many times.
I know it's empty.
And I'm not going to say Team Nadal, certainly. God, I'm going to hate myself for saying this too, but I guess I'm going to say Djokovic and Federer just because they both want that so bad. I think that would be a really interesting match to see how they both handle that situation.
Well, Djokovic Nadal wouldn't have been... Well, it's still hard to say how impressive that is because, again, Nadal sort of wavered in his dominance this year.
Right.
He hasn't looked great at times and had lesser of a clay season than he's had in a while. But, again, as you stated earlier, I mean, beating Nadal at the French is sort of the Mount Everest of... mountains of tennis. So that's what in order for my prediction to take hold, that would be the best way for it to continue.
Right.
Is the Djokovic slam is for him to beat Nadal. But at the same time, if somebody, if Djokovic is in the finals against Federer, then that means Federer and Nadal probably had a knockdown drag-out. And Federer had a knockdown drag-out with Wawrinka, I hope.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. Do you see any chance Federer can beat Nadal at this tournament?
Yeah.
I just don't see it.
Yeah, I do.
Because I just think, and yeah, Federer's got a little bit of a win streak going against him, but Nadal has beaten him so soundly on clay so many times.
I think there's less pressure on Federer. I think something he's seen, maybe Paul Annacone was talking about it on the television set, that more people are coming to the net at the French than usual.
Well, he's definitely figured out how to make short points even on clay.
Yeah.
Which is what he would have to do, be his only chance, I would think.
Yeah, I think so. You attack that backhand, wide, and you just have to guess right sometimes, and sometimes you have to be discipline and be where you're supposed to be for the first volley.
And I could see a reverse situation of when Djokovic beat Nadal. I could see Federer beating Nadal in the semis and losing to Djokovic in the final because he's so relieved and spent to beat
and that was
Nadal.
His Super Bowl, so to speak. He got so amped up for it.
In the meantime, Djokovic beats Team probably pretty easily or someone else, and he's completely fresh for the final.
Team breaks a world record for shank backhands.
But Djokovic, he's got a mental edge over Nadal and Federer. So
I think he does now. I think they look at him like he is the young, even though he's not young, he's younger than they are, and he's just unstoppable. Physically,
I don't think Federer goes into that final with any confidence.
Physically, he's unstoppable compared to them. He can just do. Nadal's next, but then Federer physically can. Spell himself during matches. He can, like you said, making points shorter, so he can manage. Nadal cannot manage his physicality on the court.
No.
He can't, because that's the way he plays.
And we've also seen that, I don't care if Djokovic plays 6 hours in the semi, he's going to be normal in the final. And so even if Team battles him to 10-8 in the fifth, and he plays Federer in the final, he's still going to be normal.
Well, the upside is theoretically... Well, I guess not both halves. I guess it could be just a walk through the park for Djokovic to the finals.
Yeah, that's
for Federer. It's not. It could be, I guess, if it was fluky. But having to play Wawrinka and then Nadal,
right?
Even if he wins them both, I can't imagine he'd win both of them. Maybe after that 5-setter with Tsitsipas and all the kind of ups and downs, maybe he's a little bit whatever and doesn't bring it against Federer, but.
But Federer doesn't have a break game on clay, that's going to be that dominant. So he's going to have to be out there you would think at least 6'4", 6'4", 6'4".
But not necessarily, because he doesn't need one. Because he's got more. Again, we're on clay, and so while Nadal does have an improved, bigger serve than he did years ago, he's still on clay.
Yeah,
and he's got to deal with the leftiness. But he's played him 1,000. He's played him in every final of every Grand Slam that Djokovic hadn't been in since 1978. So he's used to his serve by now, and plus give him a little extra time on clay. I think he's going to work magic against him in terms of the return game.
I hope that Wawrinka can at least push Federer to make that interesting, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I would say, man, Wawrinka could really take him out, but it's just how does he come back from that tough, physically and emotionally draining match.
Well, and that's why I don't think Tsitsipas should feel that bad. I mean, obviously he feels horrible. He just lost, in a Grand Slam and 8-6 in the fifth, but he would have had to beat Wawrinka, Federer, Nadal, Djokovic to win this tournament. I mean, that's just not happening.
Right.
And he would have had a real hard time against Federer, just like Wawrinka probably will after that long of a match.
Maybe. Who knows? But again, Nadal, Federer hadn't played anybody yet.
Well, to me, they're totally unknown, literally, because I feel like they haven't even been challenged at all. I mean, I really have no idea how to assess either of their games right now because they've played no one.
Yeah.
So,
holy moly.
It would be kind of crazy if they both won easily in this round and then play each other in the semi without really, us knowing what to expect.
Well, one of the best things, the French Open, when you're watching it.
What's that?
Is you're watching clay court, tournament matches. And then they go to a commercial and they start talking about grass is coming up. I mean, come on now. Aside from them needing to spread these two out a little bit from each other, Wimbledon and the French, I mean, what a swing.
Yeah, they're already promoting the grass court tournaments next week.
Yep. So
I heard there could be one I bet there's one that plays this tomorrow for all the people. I bet for the lower level people that are out already.
Well, if this studio had internet, Michael, our producer editor person, doesn't listen to our podcast.
He'll never know.
Even when he's editing it. But there's no internet in the studio right now. It is down. I've been using minutes.
Memorized all the results.
I've been using data for you people. I said minutes.
I was going to say, what year is this?
In 2001. Remember when text individually used to cost money?
Luckily, I never had that. But
well, you're using a phone that remembers.
Still has that option. Are you sure you want to spend this nickel for this text? It's that important. Oh, man.
I was so happy when you weren't gone, but I'm even happier that you're back. Oh, man. Please stay alive.
Well, we have a lot to look forward to, and our next broadcast is right after the final.
Man.
Provided no rain delay this is the last year of no indoor courts there, right?
I don't know. I'd like him to throw a light up. Can you throw a light up? What are you doing?
Did you see the court they built that has the tree?
You know what the nickname for Paris is?
City of Lights.
The City of Lights! And they don't have a light one. They're walking around there like Scrooge McDuck with a candle, and they probably got a stocking cap on walking around the court. This is ridiculous. What is it, the 1700s?
Candlelight on the chair umpire's stand. No, I love that they built that new court and they have a giant tree right next to it that puts a shadow right in the center of the court. That was perfect. By
the way, two things that don't go together. You and podcast and tennis courts and foliage of any kind. All it does is blow leaves, although they have a crew for that. But
yeah, the tree is literally it's higher than the stadium, and it's right next to the court, and it's like their second or third biggest court.
Yeah.
That was, trees next to a court always sound like a great idea until you get there the next morning. And you're like, what was I thinking?
For 6 months. Moly. Any other tidbits?
I think that's it.
Man, what an episode.
We'll save the mixed doubles review for next time. We should have
at least 10 downloads for this one. At least. Now that you're back, maybe 12.
That's right.
All right. Well, that's our midweek French Open episode. I really am excited about the men's second half for once. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I just like the way you phrased it.
I'm excited about the men's.
Yeah, the men's only.
No, I was going to say I'm excited about the men's for once in my life.
Yeah.
And actually not as excited for the women top to bottom. I mean, there's individual players that I'm excited about if they come through. But on the men's side, it's almost all the way through. It's like, all right, cool.
And how awful would that have been, by the way, if Osaka lost her number 1 ranking to some other loser?
Yeah.
Like they were saying Pliskova could have been number 1 if she made like the semis, even though she's never won a Grand Slam ever again. It would have been like the 4th or 5th time that's happened.
Right. To her.
Yeah. So thankfully that didn't happen. Osaka should be number 1, even though she didn't look like it.
Oh, well. Yeah, I don't know what her deal is. Who knows?
That's
all right.
just not her surface, I don't think. Maybe.
All right. So for the last time, is that it?
That's it.
Oh, fantastic. Good answer. Hey, don't forget to check us out on Twitter. Don't look for Corey. He won't be on Twitter.
No.
But the Tennis Rev Pod, at Tennis Rev Pod on Twitter. That's where you can get tweets on with links to our episodes. But don't do that. Just go subscribe for the love of all things holy. It's so much easier when you do the work for me and I don't have to send it out to you. Well, it's really not work for anybody. And then, of course, Instagram. We are just stuck at 115. I think we went up to 116. I was going to
say, it went up since last I heard.
And then somebody bailed.
They were like, where are the pictures?
Oh, no. Oh, even better. We're at 114. Fantastic.
I keep creating these fake accounts and then adding them and deleting them just to vex you.
Oh, I'm vexed. So
I can't figure out why nobody would join. We have 0 pictures.
That's the reason why they join. It's a goof, I think. So by all means, Tennis Revolution Pod at Instagram. And, I mean, maybe they want pictures. Maybe the fans want pictures of what? I don't know.
Not of us.
No,
sure.
we're not. No, my lunch or my Starbucks hot tea with honey because I'm like a diva and I've got to have my voice right. I don't know why you would. But by the way, go to iTunes and rate and review. No, don't review us if that means rating out stuff. Don't do that kind of work. That's ridiculous.
Nobody does that.
Just hit the 5 stars.
Yeah.
I think that's a thing. Because we do no promotion except for Twitter and Facebook. And
right.
Facebook. Does anybody even use Facebook anymore?
No one under 100.
Okay, fair enough. But yes, I do though, and I'm under 100.
I do too, but
so go. Yeah, but just get Twitter. Would you just get Twitter? But yeah, go to iTunes, rate and review us, or Spotify because we're on Spotify. We're on all the other places. Go to all those places. I don't know how it all works.
We're omnipresent. We're everywhere.
Ooh, look at you, big words, literary genius
Charles
that you
Dickens.
are. Hey. All right, so go do all that and help us grow this podcast. I can't take it anymore. It's growing too slow. It does grow, though. Almost every week until you left, it really shot up, and now we're back down to normal. But we're growing for sure, but it's just steady like a tortoise.
That's right.
I want to be the hare. I don't care if we lose the race. I just want to go fast.
That sounds like every tennis player I've ever taught. I just want to hit it hard.
Exactly. So that's the story of my life. So anyway, so do all that and everything else and other things that I didn't think of. And until next time, thanks for joining the revolution.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Serena.